How's it going, everyone? This is Dan for BladeReviews.com. Welcome to my review of the Emerson Mini CQC8, aka the Horseman. And I've reviewed a number of Emerson knives in the past. You may have seen some of my videos, some of my written reviews on various Emersons before, and I like them a lot. I think they're pretty interesting knives. But I've never really found one that has gone the distance for me as far as something that I've really been able to carry and use as an EDC. I've lusted over many of his designs in the past and have ended up pulling the trigger on several of his knives and waited for them patiently to arrive, and then they get here and I pull them out of the box and I say, oh man, this thing's just like, it's super cool, it's got a great design to it. And then I end up never really carrying them because they're just too big for somebody like me to really justify carrying, and I'm just kind of your average guy living in suburban America, and I decided to maybe consciously pick out an Emerson that was on the smaller side, and I had my eye on the Mini CQC8 for a while and finally just decided to pull the trigger. So that's what we see here today. It is a smaller knife, at least as far as Emersons go, with an overall length of 8.35 inches. It's got a 3.5-inch long blade and it weighs 4.8 ounces. So while it is a smaller Emerson, it's still definitely a full-size knife in my opinion. Here it is next to a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And then I've also got, of course, a Benchmade Griptilian here for you as well. Two standards as far as these larger utility knives go. And the Horseman, it holds its own right in between the two of them there. So definitely a good sized knife. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything by selecting a mini Emerson, because you still got quite a bit of blade and handle to work with. Speaking of blade, let's take a closer look here. It is what I would call, at least, a modified clip point. It's a very unique blade shape. Some people call this the banana blade, and it does sort of look like a banana, but it's very nicely done, like all of the Emersons I've handled in the past. I mean, his grinds are just outstanding. Even on these production knives, they've been beautifully done. And this particular knife features a satin finished bevel. All the bevels have been satin finished, and then your flats are actually stone washed here. Really nice, really attractive, crisp, clean grinds. And this blade shape does mean business. It gets to a very fine tip here. It's 1/8 inch thick, 154 cm. It's a nice stainless steel, generous piece of 154 cm. Wonderfully ground. Comes very, very sharp. And this is a V-ground knife with a chisel ground edge. So it's only, the edge is only on one side. And that's the same as pretty much all of Emerson's knives. It's kind of what he does. And I wanted to thoroughly test this one out in my backyard and do a semi-formal cut test. And I started things off with a length of 3/8 inch thick sisal rope, and I worked through that pretty easily. The Horseman cut through it in a very capable manner, and I didn't have any issues with it at all. So I actually threw in some thicker manila rope just for fun, just to see how it would hold up, and the knife did a great job with that as well. I did move along to a little bit of cardboard, just a standard cardboard cut test, and again, the Horseman worked really well. That that chisel ground edge does get pretty fine, and it's definitely different from cutting with a V ground edge there. It tracks a little bit differently in the material, but it's very effective, and I had a good time cutting up a bunch of cardboard with it. Finally, I did move on to a little bit of whittling, a little bit of carving with some 2x2s, and it worked well there as well. I mean, it's definitely not a carving knife. It's not a bushcraft knife or anything like that. But if you got to do a little bit of whittling or carving with it, it'll get the job done. So held up pretty well. I will say that jimping on the spine of the blade does get a little uncomfortable, especially if you're doing hard cutting on wood or rope. So I eventually have had to throw a glove on there. But considering that's a folding knife, I don't think that's too far out of the ordinary. So, good performer. I like the 154 cm steel. It's a nice steel, easy to sharpen, and quite capable, as you could tell. So, let's take a closer look at the handle here, and like with all Emerson knives, it follows a very basic formula. You've got your, in this case, black G10 scales. You've got on your non-locking side a stainless steel scale, and then on your locking side you've got a titanium locking liner. Everything has been put together with Phillips head screws. Your pivot is a flathead screw. You've got a partial G10 backspacer here, and everything has been simply finished, but very nicely finished. These are really kind of beautiful knives in their own way. I know Emerson sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap for fit and finish, and I've had some that were a little rough around the edges, but this one's a really nice example, really well done, and I like the way this knife has been finished. It was quite impressive, really. Just given how simple it is, it's just very solid and simply finished. I do like it quite a bit. As far as ergonomics go, this is a thicker handle, and let me show you it next to a Paramilitary 2 for comparison. So you can see it's clearly a much thicker handle, and you do feel this extra thickness in hand and in pocket, and it makes for a comfortable knife. Again, you got to watch out for this jimping. I mean, if you're going to be cutting all day, you will feel that quite quickly on the pad of your thumb. But if you are using this less extensively, or perhaps in some sort of quote-unquote tactical kind of role, I think you'll find it to be quite comfortable. It definitely will not move forward on you or slip out of your fingers easily. So they did a great job designing this. Ernest did a great job, and it does feel comfortable. Let's talk a little bit about the pocket clip and the way this knife carries. The pocket clip is quite standard. It's just a same kind of clip you'll find on all the Emersons. Very similar to Benchmade's standard clip. This has been given a black parkerized finish, and the knife has been drilled and tapped for right side tip-up carry only. Love to see these ambidextrous, but that's not what they do. You have to buy a special lefty knife or send it into the shop for them to drill and tap this for left-hand carry. That said, it is configured to be used with this wave opening feature, so I imagine that's part of the reason why they do that. And the wave opener is, of course, effective. The Emerson knives are well known for the automatic opening feature that Ernest himself designed and integrates into pretty much all of his designs here. And my knife, it waves open pretty easily. Honestly, this pivot's a little stiff. I could probably stand to take this apart, clean it out, maybe loosen up the pivot a hair, but I just like how solid this knife is, so I didn't take it apart, and I could still wave it open if I really needed to. So, but since I'm a lefty, I really don't. All right, let's talk a bit about the regular deployment feature we have here, and that is, of course, this thumb disc. It is easy to access on both the right or left side, so it is ambidextrous. I do like that quite a bit. And again, you've got your titanium liner lock that engages with the tang of the knife there. It's a nice thick piece of titanium. Notice it is thicker than the stainless steel non-locking liner, and it engages early, and this is after waving the knife open quite a bit and beating on it. So it's a sturdy liner lock. It's not going anywhere, and it does stick just a little bit, but it's nothing bad. Blade centering on this knife is great. Like I said, this is a very clean example of the knife, and I'm very impressed with the overall fit and finish of it. That kind of takes us through the Horseman, all the basic features of it, my thoughts and impressions. I really do like the knife a lot. It still is a bit much, to be honest with you, as far as a daily EDC for me goes. It's almost 5 ounces. It's quite thick in the pocket, but if you are the kind of guy that likes carrying Emersons or likes these slightly larger knives, I think you'll find that there is a lot to like with the Horseman, especially if you can get one that's as nicely made and finished as mine. It really is impressive, and it's a very thoughtful design, comfortable in hand, proven materials, and it's got that classic Emerson styling to it that many people, myself included, are a big fan of. So, do I recommend the Horseman, the Mini CQC8? Absolutely. If you're a fan of the looks of this knife, if you like Emerson knives, I think you're going to like this one a lot. So that'll do it for the review, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, this is Dan for BladeReviews.com. Please let me know if you have any comments or questions. Take care, and I will talk to you soon in the form of another knife review.